This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Business Accelerator show with myself, Adam Strong. And today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the importance of showing up for when others are in need. And I really wanted to jump on here and really kind of go in deep, really, with you guys, vertically and also horizontally as well. So for you guys that are listening in, if you're listening to me live, do me a favor, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. You can do that right now. Or what you can do, please do me a favor, PLC, post a like or comment on the comment section below. That'd be super awesome. And if you have any questions, then you can use the comment section. We are streaming through LinkedIn, YouTube, and here on Facebook as well. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you listen to this. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, of course, as I mentioned to you all the time, we'll put all the podcast show notes below. So listen, let's get straight into today, because for you guys that know me pretty well, I've got a pretty compelling story. But I'm also, in terms of my core values, my personal values, if you like, I really, really authentically like to help people. I want to kind of share a couple of analogies with you, because I think as the world is going through some massive changes right now, and I know that there are some businesses that are really struggling out there, right? They're really finding it a tough environment. And I think what's really important, especially if you are running a business that is doing particularly well, then it's really important to show up for people or for your audience or for your clients when they're in need. And this is really super important. And I'm going to quickly share with you guys a step-by-step process about how you can go about doing that. So the first thing that you need to do is to hear their pain. So let me give an example. So back here, just as the pandemic hit around March 2020, when I was having lots of conversations with people and there was lots of uncertainty and stuff, what I was doing, it was like I was stepping back. I was stepping back and I was using my ears and I was listening. Okay, this is really important. So one of the core strengths of really strong leaders is strong leaders are much better listeners than there are talkers. And so one of the things that I found from my perspective is that through conversations that I had, through the rapport that I have with my audience and with my clients, I use my ears to hear out for people's pain. Okay, so you've got to learn to hear, what pain are they in? What are they experiencing right now? What is it that they are going through? What's keeping them up at night? Okay, so it's really important to hear their pain and listen with your ears. Really important. Number two, which again is, I think is extremely important, is to compliment them, because sometimes it can be extremely challenging, like running a business, being an entrepreneur or a leader or whatever it might be, okay? But your audience don't receive enough compliments, right? All of us like to feel, that we're doing something good, right? Compliment people, right? Praise them, okay? And because otherwise, especially like, and I want to share by experience, by the way, is that I'm extremely hard on myself, right? But when someone compliments me, it makes it feel like, do you know what? The pressure is off a little bit, right? Does that make sense? So I think it's really important to start off by complimenting people and sort of saying, hey, so you're doing a great job. You've done a great job, okay? And it's just about giving people a little bit of perspective, but it's also elevating their positivity, if you like, right? So, and I feel like that's extremely important. So to compliment them on what they're doing, all right, or what they've done in the past, what they've achieved, because sometimes when negativity starts to creep in, it can be very difficult to really see the light of day, if you like, when the shit hits the fan, for example. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, really important. This to me is something which we did a great podcast show with Morag Barat, and she's got an amazing book, by the way, which is all about you, me, and we, right? How to be a friend and show up, in the workplace type of thing, right? And one thing that I learned from that, and this is really interesting because as I was taking a back step from the conversations that I have with a lot of people, I don't have expectations, right? So I don't have expectations, especially during our first call, right? I have no expectations. I want to be a friend for someone, right? I want to create trust. And that's what you've got to learn to do. You've got to create the trust. So be there as a friend, okay? More importantly, be there as a friend. It doesn't have to be so serious all the time. If you're there as a friend, you can start to lower people's barriers and you can start to learn to build the trust because, again, that's what we live in, right? We live in the age of building human connection, but you can only do that through building trust, okay? Super important. So that's that. Number four, really, really important part here, okay, is to create something for them, all right? So I mentioned to you really recently, I mentioned to you just a second ago, actually, is when the pandemic hit, I was hearing people's pain, right? So I was listening and attentively. And then obviously through continued conversations, I heard it wasn't just one person or two people. It was an ongoing, like there was a lot of people going through the same process, okay? So then I feel, well, one of the things, especially if you're an entrepreneur or leader, is to create something for them. So in our case, what we did is we created a virtual summit, right? A virtual summit which had over 30 different speakers, touched on different topics. And the purpose of that summit was really to take them from a place of negativity, fear, uncertainty to a place of, do you know what? It's going to be okay, right? It's going to be okay. It's more of an empowerment summit, right? And that's really important. So what are you guys doing to create something to help your clients alleviate some of the pains that they're in? Because I can guarantee if you start to articulate things and you start to create things based on what people want, right? What people want and what they need, okay? If you start to balance that, that's where that's where the magic is found, right? That's really, really super important. So create something. What could you do to create for them? Could you create them a video? Could you create even, do you know what? Leaving a voice message on someone's LinkedIn profile or whatever it's like when you DM someone, that might be your way to create something for them, right? It just might be a way to do that. It might be that, and it doesn't have to take too much time or money. It may not cost anything, right? It just might take 5 minutes of your time. But what could you do to create something for them that's going to help them with their pain? So, for example, right now, I haven't really actually formally announced this, but we're working on something behind the scenes, which is going to involve a challenge. Okay. And honestly, I'm so freaking excited about it. But anyway, I'm not going to tell you too much about it because we haven't officially announced it. But it's like super, super exciting. And it's only because we're hearing people's pain, and so we're going to help fulfill that promise, if you like. So that's the next thing. Tip number five is to continue to check in with people, right? So let me give you an example. Recently, I had a great interaction. I met a wonderful guy who's in the real estate business, and I gave him a few tips and things like that, and he was really like warmed by my expertise. He obviously checked us out. We jumped on a call. I gave him a few tips and tricks and things like that. And at the time, it was like, you know what? He was working on some different projects. Time wasn't right to work together, which is absolutely fine. But the key thing was is not just to forget about that person, but to continue to check in. It's really important to check in with that individual or that business leader. And the reason for that is because it shows that you care. Do you know what I mean? It's not about like, and again, it as my friend Tracy Smolinski says, the fortune is in the follow up. Now, I always, again, it's making sure that people feel cared for, people feel looked after, and actually, it also comes across like you don't have a particular agenda. All right. Because people want to know that someone is championing their side, right? That's really super important. So those are my 5 big tips, okay, about how to show up for others in need. So let's just go through them really again. Really quick summary. Number 1 is to hear people's pain. So strong leaders or good leaders, okay, listen more rather than talk more. Okay, really super important. Okay, so hear people's pain and be out and listen. Okay, so first one. Secondly, compliment other people, right? We never ever receive enough compliments. Okay, so compliment someone, tell them about how great they are, about what they've achieved, because sometimes when you see the doom and gloom all the time, it can be very difficult to get out of the rabbit hole before you get discouraged. Does that make sense? So that's tip number 2. Number 3, be a friend. Okay, be a friend for them. Okay, have zero expectation, especially on, maybe 1 or 2 calls or whatever it is. Just as you're developing that relationship, building that rapport, lowering those barriers, building trust. Super important. Be a friend to others. That's tip number 3. Number 4, create something for them. Okay, what can you do to create for them? If you have the skill set, if you have the mindset, if you have the resources, and even if you offer counsel or whatever it might be, but what can you do to create for them? Okay. And we're launching something we're launching something really exciting as well. Like I mentioned to you around the challenge, which I will tell you more about it. And it's going to be launching very, very soon. So I'll tell you more about that. And tip number 5 is to check in with them. Okay? Check in with those individuals. Okay. Because I can guarantee you that later on down the line, dividends will pay. Because if they know that they've got someone championing them, if they know that someone is has an interest in them rather than just making money, for example, okay, then it comes across in a really nice way, okay? Build that human connection, come from a place of collaboration, build that tribe, really super important. So listen, hope that these tips were particularly useful for you guys. If you have enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor. We have what we call buy me a coffee, right? So I put the link here below. We've also put them in the podcast show as podcast show description notes below. If you enjoyed today's business accelerator, do me a favor, buy me a coffee. Click on the link. It's not going to cost too much. It's fine. Just buy me a coffee. I appreciate that. That's super important. So do me a favor. For you guys that are listening in as well, hope that you have enjoyed today's show, by the way. If you're listening in on the podcast, do me a favor. If you're listening to me on Apple or on Spotify, please do me a favor, 1, 3, 5-star review, whatever it might be, whatever you feel like we deserve, okay? I would greatly appreciate that. We're on a big goal to achieve 100 reviews by the end of the year. So a little way to go, but any help would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, listen, enough from me. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I see you again on the next Business Accelerator. Take care and have a good one.